Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Gamerpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bradford Carlton. Today, we are talking about when to bring in the attorney. So say you're running your business there, whether it's a stream or an actual like brick and mortar location, content creator, like honestly, it doesn't matter. You're all businesses, right? And you're going along and you start to think, am I breaking the law? Or am I like doing something that requires an attorney? Or maybe you're discussing some sort of negotiations with somebody. And you're thinking to yourself, boy, I don't know enough to be able to go through this. So I want to talk today about, when is a good time to consider having an attorney, meeting with that attorney, when to raise questions with that attorney, because I used to be an attorney. And I used to be a business law attorney. And I would have clients come to me. And pretty much the only time they would ever come to me was metaphorically when the building was on fire, right? Like, go ahead and like, tell me how to fix this. Like, well, it's a little late. And that's by and large how it happened. I had a couple clients who came to me at the right time, but I had some issues there. So I want to talk about, when do you talk about these things? Because I am not presently an attorney. I can't tell you what your attorney would tell you. Obviously, you need to go speak with an attorney if you have any type of legal issue or legal questions. And so that's why I'm going to start with the obvious statement that having been an attorney, I should make is basically before you even start, go talk to an attorney. Because truth be told, too many people get caught up as they're starting. They just start, they go walking down the path, not realizing they're trespassing on somebody's path. And like that was usually the number one thing I saw was people who would do some type of business, not have any licenses, not any permits, weren't following EPA compliance or whatever. They were just business. And then they make some money, maybe go a year, 2 years, and they finally go, it's probably time we get things organized around here. I've got Billy Bob and Jimbo and Sarah, and like we're all working together. And like I've been paying them, sporadically, not necessarily, they're not, employees or anything. They're just friends who are helping me out. And then they'd come to me and I'd be like, oh, for the love of why didn't you talk to an attorney first? And so like, that's number one, right? Number one, you have just upfront, look, it doesn't cost that much. Most attorneys give free consultations. And even if they don't give free consultations, you pay for an hour. So we're talking like $250, $350 an hour. And, if they have to do any amount of work to help you get that set up at the start, maybe $1,000, $1,500. Okay. And in the long run, that $1,000, $1,500 that you may end up spending is like a drop in the bucket, right? Because it's how's that saying go? A pound of prevention is worth an ounce of cure, or ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That's right. That's how it goes. Because if you can just take that initial step right at the beginning, you don't have to worry about the compounding effects of breaking the law, right? You don't have to worry about, oh well, shucks, I entered in all these agreements and I didn't have the right licenses to. What do I do, attorney? Like, well, see, I can't tell you what you should do there because your situation would be weird. So like, it's so strange to think that people are like, worry about the attorneys later. Having been on the side of the attorneys, because like, that's never the answer, ever the answer. Usually like, I've seen people go to jail, guys. Like you have to avoid going to jail. That's my number one rule. Doing business, I have like my code of ethics, right? Everything has to be moral, ethical, and legal that I do. Okay. But like in terms of practicality, my number one thing is don't go to jail. If I get sued, getting sued happens, but I don't want to go to jail. And like, hopefully same for you. You don't want to go to jail. So speak with an attorney upfront. Now, if you have not done that and you're already down that path and you're sitting there wondering, am I like on a path that I'm not supposed to be on? Go talk to an attorney now. Like, I don't understand how this isn't like, this is not complicated, right? If you think you might have some issues, or if things haven't been super easy, or if you have to like do your own research about this sort of thing and you're already making money, go take a little bit over here, put it over there where you spend and give it to the attorney. Cause like, it's worth it. Just the peace of mind is worth it. I've known business owners who knew they were breaking the law and they didn't see a way out, because if they didn't break the law, they wouldn't have a business. And like, something in my head like pops when I hear something like that. Like, the only way to make money is to break the law. Yeah. But you're going to do it anyway. Yeah. And you feel bad about it. Yeah. Why don't you find something that's legal? Right? Like, go find something that's legal, or go talk to an attorney who might be able to find a way to make what you're presently doing legal, right? That's their job, is to figure out how to fix your mistakes, because that's what people came to me for, right? It was never to actually set it up properly. It's always to fix the mistakes. And so what they're going to do is they're going to give you this big old long list of recommendations, or maybe a short list of recommendations. And you either go out and do that yourself, or they do it for you. And yes, it costs you money. But at the end of the day, if you're not breaking the law and not likely to go to jail, to me, that's a win-win. So now, if you have a question, now, this is an interesting one. Like, if I was an attorney, okay, I'm not an attorney, but if I was an attorney, the only answer I could give you is you need to speak to an attorney if you have any type of legal question. All right, because any other answer other than that would have been considered like advice, and like it would have created a relationship. But I'm not an attorney, so I'm going to say, like, you really can Google a lot of answers. That's by and large what I did, and I was considered like a world-class research attorney. Other attorneys would come to me. Other attorneys still come to me and ask me questions. I went to Google. Like, that's the first thing I did. I just typed in the exact question I had. What is this? And then I would look at the answers, and like, maybe I'd see a phrase or a case that someone mentioned, and I go Google that. And I would keep Googling until I got to a point that I'm like, okay, I think I know what the law is. So yes, you can find legal answers online. However, they've made the law this really weird, tricky thing that there's never a black or white answer, okay? They have set up the law, maybe not necessarily on purpose. You can blame the judges for this one. But they've set up the law so that there's shades of gray, okay? So it's never just yes or no. It depends. So and this is a thing I have to get out of. I'm still working on it. I know my wife still does it. She used to be an attorney too. If you ask me a question that I don't know, easy yes or no, it's, it depends. Well, it depends on what? Well, it depends on this factor and this factor and this factor and this factor. And, that's what an attorney is going to tell you. So when you go and do your research yourself online, you may think you know the answer, but the truth is, it depends. It depends on stuff you may not even be cognizant of. And that's why, you can do your initial research. You might be able to get a clear yes or no. If you get a clear yes or no, that's easy, right? I would still say you double check with an attorney, because, I don't want to get in trouble with buying any bar associations or anything. But if it's not entirely certain, like, maybe like, yeah, go talk to an attorney, because at that point you've done your research. And if you're not certain, you're making like a conscious decision to risk breaking the law. And that doesn't look so good on you in court. Just saying. It depends. It depends. So that when you bring in an attorney, the answer is like always, every chance you get. Now, when do you have to follow the advice of your attorney? This is an interesting one. If it involves an actual question of law, listen to your attorney. All right. That's a no-brainer. Just listen to your attorney if it's a question of law. If they're giving you business advice, which many of them want to do because they think that, attorneys think they're smarter than they are. Just truth be told. And so they're going to say, oh, well, here's the law. I think this is what you should do. And maybe the Venn diagram like covers like a little bit of both, but that advice may not have been all legal advice. It may have been some business advice. You don't necessarily have to follow their business advice. And many very successful business owners understand that difference. Okay, there is a very clear difference. I do not give legal advice while I'm doing my business coaching and consulting, right? I do not give legal advice. I'll say, talk to an attorney. The attorneys are going to come back and say, blah, 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 do this, do that. The client comes back to me and says, this is what the attorney said. I'm like, okay, well, this was the legal advice. All this other stuff, like that's just business advice. So like you are on this other path, that works. Just make sure you don't break the law, right? So just make sure you understand the difference between what legal advice is business advice, because if you don't, it's going to sink you. So that's what I want to share with you all today. Reminder, organization is the enemy of sloth. If you have questions, write them down on a piece of paper. Every time you have a question, write it down on a piece of paper. Or if you have a retainer with an attorney, shoot them an email real quick. And, maybe they charge you for 1/10 of an hour. So that's, 6 minutes to answer your question. Maybe it's 15 minutes or so, a quarter hour. And they charge you $75 for that. Okay, well, at least you got your answer. Right. When I was working with real estate investors, they would complain and moan and blah, blah about having to deal with their attorneys, how much attorneys cost, but they knew they needed them. And I talked about that like last week or so about, making the mistake of thinking I knew better than the real estate investors. So that's what I got for you all. Don't be just a gamer, be a gamerpreneur.